Today I just want to talk about a few subjects. If you were to look at one of our 1998 articles, it's called Stages of Growth in the Islamic Movement. In other words, the Islamic movement has stages of growth and development inside of it itself. And we have evolved over the years from one stage after another. We're getting ready to, no, we're not getting ready to, we're into another move or another stage of development right now. We can clearly feel it, we can see it, and we know that it exists. And in that stage, you have higher goals, different plans, strategies, and during this period, we're in a psycho-spiritual stage. Before, we was psychological guerrilla warfare stage. Each one of these are stages that the movement before us never had any chance to go through. They got through the early organizational stages and heavy infiltration right away, and they were duly dispensed of by the government. In the history, all of our groups and movements either fought and argued or eventually murdered and killed each other, like us, Ron Karinga and them, hitting the brothers at UCLA, 1969, Bunchy Carter and all of them, and killing 4 brothers on campus at UCLA. Okay, you could remember even the lectures of C.L. Franklin on Black Power. We had talked about it before, that he talked about the city Negroes against the country Negroes, this Negro, which is good. And of course, he was late in the discussion, but it was progressive for him. You know, it was very progressive for him, because that outlined the policy divide, conquer, and rule. And we, right here, have been able to avoid every trap the government has laid for us. We've avoided, and that the attacks on, what do we call it, Marbar America Day, on November 11th, that must have been about 3 years ago, in California, we avoided and we preached on and we taught. We use that as a watermark to teach. We use it as a signal to teach and train on what's possible. And we used ourselves as an example. And we were basically saying to the people, we're showing you what you're going to have to do in order to get where you need to go as a movement. That's indicative of the movement around the world. The strongest movement, you see it perfectly like in Hezbollah. Hezbollah had a couple of brothers assassinated last year, and they refused to do anything about it. So they had evolved, because Lebanon is a tinderbox. If you have a couple of Christian phalange or what have you, assassinate Muslims, Hezbollah, and they get to fighting. After they start fighting, nobody goes and do a survey on who started and what happened. It's just everybody go to their neutral corner. And we have been, I'm kind of proud of our actually, I'm not going to lie, I'm very proud of what we've done and what we're doing in the United States. We're passing all the tests that we have designed for ourselves, that the system has designed for us, and some of the other environmental tests. In other words, we're here now. We exist as we are right now, and we have technically passed every test that we have encountered, or we wouldn't be here. And we passed it in a good way. And we had, we've shown exemplary courage and self-discipline, and I hate to use the word, but I'm going to use it more in the future. Love for not only humanity, but love for our antagonists, those people who challenge us. We have exhibited, and we have expressed, and we have spoken on the subject, and we've proved it through our behavior that we're ready for the big league. Not the big league we've been in. We've been in the big league for 40 years. We've been playing big league ball all along. In fact, in Jahiliyyah, it was big league. But this go around, this is the biggest league. And we've faced the biggest challenges, and we've carried the ball without fumbling or dropping it in this arena with everybody watching. So that nobody can say that they haven't been paying no attention, or they don't know what happened to the Masjid. They can't say that. They can say it, but nobody's going to believe them, especially us. We believe that the people in general, that all the Masjid here and in Oakland and generally, that each and every group, including Mass, and including all of them, ISNA, ICNA, they all, especially the top leadership, maybe the people don't get it, but all the top leadership get it, and they know it. So we've passed all of those stages. And one of the ways that we've done it is what we call strategic management. And in strategic management, it has several levels. 1, situational analysis. 2, strategy formulation. 3, strategy implementation. 4, evaluation and control. We've been repeating this cycle really all of our lives, but clearly for over 40 years. We have really been, and when we really solidified it clearly, I would say it would be the outline I showed y'all from 1996. That's about 35, 36 years ago. Yeah. When they stole the accordion folders, and that showed that they were now visibly going to monitor. They're not, when I go to run, copying off my writings and clipboards and all of that, but they're going to now visibly show that we have stolen 4 of your folders and notes and everything, so we down with what you down with, and we know your pattern of thought and all of that. And so we said, good. So we knew what we was up against. Situational analysis, scanning your environment, recognizing and recalling history, behavior patterns of those around you, particularly your enemy, monitoring and evaluating strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a SWOT analysis. So you scan your environment. That means it's just like we scan the environment we're living in, just like we do right now. We're moving on and we're moving up, and we're in an evolutionary pattern, glide path right now. We're moving up, no matter what other people think. We're moving up, and we're in an expansive policy right now. But we had to do the same thing. Right now, we're at the beginning of a new cycle. So we would still be semi-involved in situational analysis. You know, what is our situation? How are we doing? Where have we been? How are the people around us? All of that stuff. And then after that, it's like scanning your environment. Strategic formulation. Now you formulate your missions and your goals, some of the steps that you want to take to accomplish those goals and objectives and strategies. So now your mission is kind of clear. You scan your environment and now you see where they are and you see where you are and you see the environment. So those things, them, us, and the environment. Okay, then, different from a lot of big organizations they have, you go in, they have a big 4-leaf binder with great plans on it. They don't particularly do anything about it. That's different from us. Strategy implementation. Activities needed to accomplish overall plan. Budgets and stuff like that. Now, we've never had a budget, but now we're moving into, well, at a certain stage, we will acquire a budget. But we've had ad hoc, temporary budgets. We've never been out of money. Like this go around, I would say we was, for all historical purposes, I would say last month we was flat broke. I mean, like flat broke. Whatever we was in possession of was there and it wouldn't be touched. No matter what it was, that was it. You would have to consider us flat broke to the point that I would have to wait till some money come in the box to go to the store. And that's all right. Okay. So, strategic implementation is something that's going on right in front of us. Example, all of what we did leading up to the Eid and what have you was strategic implementation. We went out with boxes all the time. We won't go out with boxes now until the Eid, but we'll go out with flyers and everything. Why? Because we needed a certain amount to keep us going, Now, we have accomplished that. That's what everything we've been doing for the last few months have been, to get to where we are now. And we're here, and it's good. We're not but $8,000 up. I mean, that's about, if you take in the amount of money we collected over the last recent Eid, you would say is about $8,000. Okay, now that's fine for now, but remember we have to go to California and pay off $30,000, and also we have to do other things around here. But the one thing about it, we're not in the poorhouse. So if you're flat broke, you don't have any mobility. So we now have time, we have enough cash on hand and to carry out what we want to do. So we don't have to go out and collect money every week. We had to last month, but we don't have to do it this month. We don't have to do it this month, and we can really plan and formulate. See, this is not the 10% rule, but it's kind of like let's call it a 3% rule. You know, the 10% rule, that once you get, if we want to raise $1 million, once we got $100,000, We talking trash now because all we have to do is keep doing what we're doing, keep headed in that direction, and we're going to raise $1 million. It's not a certainty, but it's once you do it, you don't worry about it anymore. We have $100,000, we on the road. Okay, the government took $100,000 out of our property and changed our account. They did all that. That's several years ago, 6, 7 years ago. They expected us to fall in a certain line. I want our money back. And then not only that, we said that ain't nothing. So we encouraged Baba Clune to encourage them to sell our property. And we sit right there with him. Yeah, man, I know they're going to sell our property. I know they're going to, over and over again. To what? Ring, 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 sell his property out there. And they did. That's a great thing because they can't do it, but it adds deeper into the trap. Look, so the government is trapped, technically. Those people that work for the government are trapped. No matter what happens, whether we win our cases, whether we write long historical outlines about what happened and we have the proof to show it, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference because we're going to get that information out and we got the proof right there. So historically, we didn't cover them on every kind of way. They have fallen under our attack under at least 3 directions. Number one, the physical attack with the wealth and the property, which they couldn't do. Number 2, the physical attacks and assaults.
Bodily.
Body just stick out, okay, but not only that, the attack of pulling back and leaving us out there, what they would think, all by ourselves, which is wonderful. All of those, there's been at least 4 attacks, and they've lost every one of them. And we've come through, okay. Everybody, as far as movement is concerned, there's nobody in the United States, period, did any out of the 4 things that we have visibly done. Nobody else has survived none of those punches, not even the first attack. I'm sorry, that's what the government was so effective and efficient, and the movement was so early in its development and so weak in its institutional development that they just slapped us around and went on about their business. Being aware of that, we have always talked about longevity, being around a long time. We've talked about protracted struggle since day one. I can show you this stuff back before even being a serious Muslim. Protracted, long range, okay? And we've been able to pull that off. And that's been the cornerstone. Technically, that's been the cornerstone of our movement. When I say technically, that means in human terms. That means in human terms. In human terms, in psychological terms, it's not bragging, but we didn't slap the urine out of the boss man. He looks like an idiot. He haven't even touched us on nothing. And when he put his hands on us physically and we refused to respond in front of everybody, that was a sign. That means that's your Nobel Prize, a Negro Prize, right there. You survived. They studied you. They studied Imam Jamil, and they said, he responded this way on such and such. And they're like, they feel good about themselves. They feel regular, you know. So therefore, the ego will drive, they'll be driven by ego. They won't allow themselves to be oppressed. And they missed the point. That worked on one of our leaders. But it didn't work on me, because what they were looking at, it goes way back. Once they formed an idea about you, they keep it, until something drastic. Here's what happened to the dummies. When I was in Jahiliyyah, I'll tell you about a certain times when I got a little fat-headed, you know what I mean? And it was a good time because nothing happened to me at that time for me to use the power that I had on somebody. It was just lucky for them, and it was lucky for me. Because I looked at a picture that I had taken somewhere, and I looked at it, I said, that ain't that nigga, that ain't me. And I started to change. Now, here's what they think of. They question everybody, and they talk to them in detail. So if you would have asked my first wife, when we were married, we was going through all of that stuff together. And I was abusing certain rules that I wouldn't use now, because it says, like in what we're doing, don't pressure anybody to do it. Everybody has to do what they do because they want to be a part of the movement, they volunteer, but you can't say, like Mafia, you gotta do this, right? That's the way Jahiliyyah was. If you my wife, you gotta be on the team. You gotta do this, you gotta do that. Well, you say that, and the government get them at a certain level, and the government got them, because they didn't volunteer for that. And if you ask a woman, da-da-da-da-da, she's gonna think first of her children. So if they got her in a bind, they'll say, yes, we did it, because the government would tell them in a certain case, although they broke the law, it said, it's the biggest lie you ever heard. We got this out of your, not out of your purse or anything, but when we was arrested at the airport in LA, they put me in one room, and when we was going in there, they pulled out dope, like, we've just found this on you. I got assault on the government, because I was pretty big at that time. Shoot, I turned around, and went right out the door, and you know them big doors they have? Shoot, I broke them doors down. The only thing is the police was on the other side, and they tapped